Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to IAG Trade Talk. Andrew Scott here, of course, and I'm joined by none other than Stuart Hunter. Hi, Stuart. How are things?
Pretty good, thanks, Andrew. How's things for you?
It's great, and I'm really looking forward to getting to ICE next week. And Stuart is, of course, the managing director of, let me get this right, Clarion Gaming Events. That's right, isn't it, Stuart? So, and obviously everybody's looking forward to ICE next week, February 6, 7, and 8. And it's going to be the last ICE in London. And it's probably like every ICE since the pandemic, it's going to be the biggest ICE ever. And it seems to get bigger and bigger every year. So, sure, let's get straight into it. Tell us what next week, what can we expect out of ICE 2024 in terms of numbers of exhibitors, size of the show, expected attendees, that sort of thing?
I think you said it, Andrew. We couldn't be more thrilled, really, post-COVID, for the shows to be kind of growing and kind of carrying that momentum from last year's show. Really, I think after running a slightly smaller event, which we did in 22, I think it was 22, and then we got back to business as usual in last year in 23, which is the biggest show, and all parts of the gaming ecosystem and all the kind of the global content was well represented. So that was great. And I think since then we've just continued to the industry's continued to grow and evolve. And I think ICE is a representation of that. So it's not going to be too much bigger in terms of size, because last year's show we maxed out all of the space at XL, and that's the same for this year. But in terms of the kind of attendee growth, we're expecting a little bump on last year, I would say. But I think what excites me the most, really, now, when you get to this crunch point of the event, is seeing everything come together. Seeing all of our big brands and the smaller brands in terms of the types of products and services they're going to be showing at ICE, the types of stand installations they're putting through, and obviously we sign a lot of the big complex builds off. So I'm starting to see all that stuff come together. Weirdly, actually, good timing, you and I are speaking together today, because this is the first day we take tenancy at XL, so we start build up today. So the operation teams are on site. Some of the bigger exhibitors that lay kind of big installations are on site. So it's just a huge excitement. So we expect it to be a really successful event, but also, it'll be a bit of an emotional one as well, paying homage to London as it's its last one. So we're looking forward to kind of a 10 out of 10 on every level. That's what we're aiming for, really.
Look, we were absolutely astonished when we went last year. It was our first opportunity. I mean, I remember talking to you guys for 2 or 3 years there. We just couldn't get there. We couldn't get there. Obviously, the pandemic was felt a little bit harsher in Asia than it was everywhere else around the world, and a little bit longer. And then when we finally could get there last year, there were 3 or 4 of us went there, and we were just staggered at how much it had grown and how big it was. I think, was there something like 27,000 attendees on the first day and about 40,000 all up, or something like that? Were those numbers about right?
Yeah. Not too far away at all. I think we that first day was definitely in the 20,000s. It was huge, an enormous day, and it was just one of those moments where I think anyone that's been involved in either ICE or the industry that had, as you said, a difficult few years, which pretty much everyone had. That feeling on that first day of everyone being back and seeing the swell of enthusiasm, I think, was very satisfying. I certainly won't forget about that. Certainly in my career, and certainly the team that puts on ICE, it was one of those moments where you got all that blood, sweat, and tears was worth it. And I'm sure everyone that was participating in ICE, even attendees and people like yourself traveling over from Asia, that was not easy last year. So hopefully everyone felt like all the effort was worth it. But we topped over 40, close to 45,000 when you add affiliate in. So I don't know where we're going to end up this year. The trajectory says somewhere between mid 40s and maybe even 50. So let's see. But the volume's a nice indicator. It shows that we're attracting more people in, but it's only a very small metric we look at. For us, really, it's the quality of the conversations, the quality of the connections, and the business that's done at the show, which ICE has a proud track record for being a place where business gets done. So we hope to hear and see a lot of that happening next week.
Yeah, I know for us last year, we felt very much that. And as we were talking to other people at the show as well, we were getting very positive reactions last year. A lot of business was done. We did business, our clients did business, and we're talking the complete opposite side of the world from where we're from, or yet we're still doing a lot of business there. It was really exciting. Now, any trade show kind of has 3 components, right? It has sort of as an exhibition, it has a a conference or a seminar or a thought leadership part, and there's a networking part. Obviously, ICE is really well known for a very large exhibition, but talk us through a little bit about ICEVOX, the thought leadership part, and maybe a little bit about the networking that'll be on offer next week.
Definitely. Well, ICEVOX kicks off early, kicks off on the Monday. And then on the Monday is kind of our main conference session. So we have the ICC, which is the International Casino Conference. So as the name suggests, very land-based orientated. Then we have WRB that runs in parallel, which is the World Regulatory Briefing. So everything in and around that regulatory framework across all sectors, really, all geographies. So those are the two main conferences. And then throughout the rest of the period of VOX, throughout the show, we have more masterclass based sessions. So I was looking at it. I obviously get asked a lot around kind of, what are the highlights of VOX this year? And actually, it isn't something I can do justice. I'm going to be really boring and say, look, you have to check on the website. You have to get through it, because the volume of conference sessions, topics, debates, educational sessions, training is, I think, the widest spread we've ever achieved. And I have to take my hats off to the team. As soon as we hang up for ICE in 23, the work starts to prepare for 24. And I think some of the content and the selection of speakers that we've got in, I think, is, from our perspective, the best we've ever achieved. So I think, depending on whatever your aspirations are, whichever pocket of this industry that you work in, whichever geography that you serve, there is something for you at VOX. I think from a personal perspective, there's a couple of highlights. I think, being the last year in London, let's sort of pick on something UK centric. We've got Clarion Harris, MP, who's been coming in, and I think there's a lot of change in the UK at the moment in terms of the regulatory framework and actually across Europe in terms of things tightening up a little bit. So I think there's going to be a lot of interest in her, and certainly around the evolution of the white paper in the UK, to see how, what that's going to kind of evolve into. So that's certainly going to be a session, I think, that's going to be a hot topic. And what we hope with that is going to be, it's not just going to be a sort of a formal presentation. There's going to be lots of debate and conversation in there, which is really what we set out to achieve with VOX. You could, if you wanted to, you could go to a conference every other week in this industry. What we try and do at VOX is create a platform where real kind of decisions are made, real subject matter is debated, and it's almost like a healthy environment for the industry to move on, really, which I think it always has been, and certainly should be this year. I guess another one, which I've mentioned a couple of times, but I'm genuinely excited to have Bill Hornbuckle, CEO and chairman of MGM Group, coming over, which I think is going to be really exciting, especially considering the casino industry in the US is booming at the moment. They're obviously at the forefront of that, so there's a lot of information and excitement around how that industry is evolving, but also the kind of cybersecurity element as well has been really up in the sort of forefront for many years. But with the MGM Group having their attack last year, I think it's going to be interesting to hear what he has to say around that, and I think there's going to be a lot of learning. So I think it's a really broad spectrum. We've got ex-FBI agents speaking this year, talking about security as well. So it's a really varied selection. But definitely check it out on the website. There is, limitless amounts of information, lots of opportunities. And I think the one thing that we always forget is, as much as the learning in the conference session, it's a great opportunity to bump into senior thought leaders and other kind of influential people in the industry. So whether you're there to learn, but also just to mingle and network, I think that's really important. So that's the learning part. The trade show part I've touched on. 650 ICE exhibitors, 150 affiliate exhibitors. Probably it's about 110 gross square meters of space. So huge amount of all the latest products, services, and innovations. So that's going to keep you busy for 3 days. And then the networking piece. We've got, I think there's over 40 different small events that we run as an organizer that sit in and around ICE. And that's everything from a regulatory framework right through to small kind of networking sessions for a tribal industry, for a Spanish regulatory industry. So it's a real mixture there. So there is definitely something for everyone. And probably too much than everyone can fit in their diary, but you just need to pre-plan, get ahead, get on the app, have a look at what's happening, and start to plot those things into your diary. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. It is the most busiest week for us, and I'm sure it's the busiest week for most of gaming, really. So we're looking forward to it.
It's really interesting when you mentioned about Bill Hornbuckle on the cybersecurity part. I was lucky enough to have a one-on-one with Bill in October last year in Vegas, and we were talking about exactly that, of course, because what else would you talk to him about right now? And it was I won't divulge anything I shouldn't, but it was fascinating to talk to him and to learn about what they went through. And actually, it's the cover story of IAG's February issue is all about cybersecurity. We've interviewed a whole bunch of cybersecurity guys in Asia and throughout the world, and what casinos and other gaming enterprises need to be looking at. So that's a red hot topic. So very good timing to get Bill there, and all those networking events sound fantastic too, apart from the fact that there's no way you can go to 40 of them. So like you say, you need to plan.
You know, actually, if you had to prioritize, obviously there's events throughout the show, but if you're doing something in the evening, I think this is the first time we've partnered with Lyceum Media, who organise or have historically organised their Fire and Ice show, which is one of the parties that sits around ice. So we're working with them. He's created a different concept this year called Evolve. So it's a real kind of much more of a business orientated networking / party, which we're really excited to kind of partner with, and that's going to be the only sort of official ice party. It's going to be on the Tuesday evening. So if you had a loose end on the Tuesday, definitely get a ticket for that. It's going to be a great spectacle. We're expecting anywhere from 2, 3, 4, maybe 5,000 people at that party. So that's going to be good fun.
Look, I do want to ask you about the last year of Excel, and I want to ask you about Barcelona next year. But just before I do that, what about priorities in putting the show together? Obviously, you've talked to a very large range of stakeholders in the industry, in all different parts of the industry. Land-based, iGaming is obviously huge now in all 4 corners of the globe. What are the sort of the major priorities that you've been hearing from exhibitors and participants about what are the really sort of key points that are affecting the industry globally at the moment? What sort of things have they been bringing up to you?
It's really case by case, and I think we pride ourselves in having a really close relationship with all our customers. We try and get out and see them as often as we can in person, but otherwise everyone has a dedicated account manager, and as a senior team we're trying to have conversations and meetings with them as often as we can, because that's really the only way you better understand your customers' needs, enables us to create a proposition for ICE that meets those needs, because we are kind of a one giant team essentially. So I think it's difficult to kind of give a summary of what's happening as a collective, but I think certainly from some of the bigger companies, the more historical land-based companies, they've been on a massive dynamic shift over the last couple of years, becoming much more omni-channel, either through acquisition or launching new product. So I think that there's really a story that they want to tell. I think a lot of them in terms of showcasing that they have a sort of a multi-dimensional service product now, whereas perhaps back in as recent as 2020, that wasn't the case. So I think there's an education element that they're trying to get across. And I think by looking at some of the stand designs that are coming through, they're being super creative on how they're translating that. And I think we all benefit from that. It's the entertainment industry essentially, and they really are the ones that bring that to ICE. So I'm really excited to stand on all those kind of big major stands at ICE and get that feeling. I think everybody else really is, it really depends on the specific geography that they're trying to hit or achieve, or the product sector, because I think there's lots of different parts of the industry that are going through different parts of growth. We touched on the UK before, US, obviously booming casino industry. You've got the sports betting part of it, which sort of went off pretty quick and it's sort of slowed a little bit, but there's some excitement that's gathering there. I think, we have really close relationship with the tribal industry in the US through the Indian Gaming Association and the Indian Gaming Association trade show. So we see that growing. That's a really huge and important part of the US market. So I think there's a real interest there, certainly as the kind of conversation around sports betting evolves. Then you've got LATAM as well with Brazil recently. I think that's really exciting. There's lots of conversations there, and I think we are seeing our LATAM attendance increase this year. That is another exciting part of the migration to Barcelona as well. I think that opens up more potential and opportunity with LATAM from 25 onwards. I think that's exciting. The Brazil part, we've got Chile and Peru as well as sort of re-regulating. So that's good. And I think, look, I'm not going to tell you about Asia. You're the expert on that, Andrew. But I think what we're seeing is, we've obviously got some interest in seeing what's happening in Macau and making sure that kind of the industry supports that kind of growth and return. And then, Thailand, Japan, there's lots of huge kind of exciting markets. So I think our customers, all of them have a very bespoke set of objectives for ICE coming up. But I think what I hope that we achieve at ICE, being the truly global trade show, is that we're bringing together people, customers, buyers from over 150 different nations. So irrespective of what corner of the globe you stem from, what sector that you operate in, there is a conversation and an opportunity for business to be done, or learning to be had, or new connections to be made. So it's a difficult challenge for us. We try and balance that as our overarching proposition, and make sure that we cover enough content that satisfies all of those things. And some of that does shift year to year, depending on what we're seeing. But I think really our aspiration, and certainly our future aspiration as the show grows, is to make sure that every part of that ecosystem has a place at ICE. And I think that just goes to show that, it's probably one of the reasons why it's been growing so rapidly over the last 4 or 5 years, really. So looking forward to it.
Funny you mentioned Thailand. That's exactly where I am right now, meeting some groups who are obviously Thailand's could be a whole new huge market. And I think what you mentioned about Brazil, very true. Everyone's excited, particularly about Brazil, and even when you mentioned about that omni-channel business, with you look at companies like Scientific Games, well, Light and Wonder now, I should say. We had the CEO Matt Wilson on the cover of the January issue, and they've got a big social casino, social business now, and Aristocrat's got a big real money iGaming business now. It's very, very true. Let's get on to the last show at Excel. I think it was at somewhere in the city, wasn't it? I've just gone blank on it was Court before Excel, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was Court. Yeah, all the way back then. Don't know how many years it's been at Excel, maybe 15 or something at Excel.
Yeah, not quite as many. This will be the 11th.
11th,
we had that. It would have been 12, but we had that COVID year of none running. So this is the 11th edition at Excel.
Yeah.
So not far off,
mixed emotions for you finishing up at Excel this year.
Yeah, I think it is. But for me, it's sort of tempered with a huge excitement for not obviously to get the show done next week. We're in that mode now where we want it to come together. But equally, I've been driving the project around the relocation, and because I've probably been the closest to it, I've seen what the opportunity and the excitement for a Barcelona show in 25 looks like, and I couldn't be. My excitement is growing. It's not diminishing. So we've got a bit of a challenge next week. And I think I've shared this with the team and really kind of made sure we spent a lot of time thinking about it. How do we, the element of kind of it being a business orientated event, first and foremost, let's make sure that we capture all of that. But at the same time, we don't want to miss the fact that this is the last event in London, and it has, in its various different forms, been in London for close to 86 years. So this is not a 10-year-old trade show. This is a trade show that's a decade or so shy from 100 years of evolution. So it is a big deal. So we're playing homage to that next week, just with some light touches. We want to recognise and thank London and certainly most recently Excel, where it's grown hugely really over the last 10 years. We want to thank them for playing their part. And then also want to welcome on, the new custodians in Barcelona, which is a fantastic city. So it's an incredible venue. Just to give you a bit of scope, it's about roughly twice the size of Excel. So we've got plenty of space for the show to grow as and when it needs to. We don't have any specific agenda to grow it over the next couple of years, but that really just is in line with what our customers want. If they're wanting space to grow and present more products and services, then at least now we have the opportunity to do that. So I would expect it to grow a little bit over that period, but also the relationship with the city that we built up, which for anyone running major trade shows, whether it's in gaming or other sectors, it's quite difficult to build a relationship with a city. Usually the relationship sits with the venue, and they have a relationship with the city. But in major cities, even London as a good example, it's quite challenging. Whereas Barcelona is a different model. It enables us to have a relationship with both the city and the venue. So in terms of our aspirations of festivalizing ICE in the future, so not just creating the trade show, but creating an experience from the moment you land, from the moment you check into the hotel, from every port of networking throughout the city, we've now got a relationship and partners that can help us deliver that. So some really hugely exciting potential for ICE as it grows and goes into Barcelona in 26. We'll obviously share a lot of that all the way through, probably from March this year. We'll start to build up the people. Hopefully, people won't be too sick of ICE. We're going to talk about it a lot from March onwards around the road to ICE in 25. But it is a big deal. It's a big move. But yeah, there'll be lots to share. But right now, it's about next week. It's about getting everyone together, and it's about making sure that everyone ticks all those boxes that they need from a business perspective. They have all the great things that are, come to expect of a face-to-face event, which is pre-organized meetings, but all those little, you bump into someone that you haven't seen for a couple of years, or you meet someone new that becomes a business acquaintance or even a friend. There's those moments that you can't replicate any other way. And I think COVID proved that. You've got to be face to face. You've got to shake a few hands and share a coffee or a beer, whatever your choice of drink is. And I think we're excited to see all that come together. Give our salute to London, and then get set and get into gear for planning for 25.
There's nothing better than the bump into meeting, I say, because no one arranged it. It was nobody, put it up. So there's no onus on anybody to talk about anything. It's very, very good, the bump into meeting, and you get so many of them at ICE. So just for people in Asia who may not have followed the process, I mean, you did go through a very extensive process in choosing Barcelona. It wasn't just let's go there. There was a competitive process between, I think it was Paris, Barcelona, London, and Madrid, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
And
yeah.
Just what some reasons behind it. I mean, some people say, oh, it's Brexit. Some people say it's running out of room. And reasons behind it. The Feira de Barcelona, as you say, much bigger venue. Earlier dates, I notice it's going to be the third week of January, not the second week of February. A little bit about what to expect next year and how it may be a different experience for people.
Definitely, and I think some people also think that it was something that we thought about quite quickly and took a decision on it over a short period of time, which in some respects is correct. But actually, if you have to look back over the last 5-6 years, really, and I think a lot of some of our bigger customers, the ones that are kind of building these huge 500-600 square meter installations. A lot of them are kind of European based. And I think what we were seeing is a kind of a conversation that was kind of happening around just the increasing cost of being in London and transporting goods, etc., was becoming a bit of a challenge. And also, as we grew up in the venue, we always knew that Excel were going to have a kind of a lifespan for ICE, because we needed the opportunity to grow, and our customers needed us to have to be more flexible with what their needs were. So this kind of conversation had been happening, but obviously we hadn't reached capacity at Excel at that point. So, we didn't do too much with that information apart from recognizing that at some point it was going to be the right thing to do. And then I think in some respects, COVID provided that opportunity, certainly for me personally, because certainly that first 6 months, 8 months, we weren't doing much else bar Zoom calls for 12 hours a day, right? I remember those moments. So I just took the opportunity really to, and I was about 1.5 years into the role at Clarion Gaming, so I took an opportunity just to catch up with everybody and really better understand the needs of their business, and not so much current, but forward facing. What do you want ICE to be? What do you need ICE to be in the future to be fit for your business? And a lot of those things involved opportunity to scale and grow and some efficiencies as well. So we said, well, look, let's do a proper sort of deep dive on the project. Let's really understand what the needs and wants are, not just from our big customers, but from the wider universe. So we said, well, look, we'll definitely review it, and which we did, and we brought an expert consultative agency on board who are experts in working with big trade show organizers to kind of explore what alternatives would look like. So we ran that project. That project started about this time last year, actually, formally, and it ran through all the way to August. So it was a good 7-8 months of a process, really detailed. We looked at huge amounts of variables, from cost, from accessibility, from transport, from in terms of the ability for us to put on a major trade show, the city, the kind of what the city offers. So, and used all those comparisons versus London, and went through the whole process. As you said before, we had 4 cities shortlisted, and we chose those 4 cities initially because they have a city is big enough to accommodate an event like ICE, a venue big enough to accommodate an event like ICE, and decent enough transport links to get circa 40-50,000 attendees from 150 countries. So that reduced the shortlist down. So we went through that process, and then all of those cities were scored. They put a proposal together, And then we shared that with our advisory board and whittled that down to 2. And then the advisory board made the final decision. And I'm pleased to say that it was unanimous for Barcelona, which is great. My worst fear was going to be that it was just going to be a split decision. And then it's like, oh God, where do we go from here? Because then it's just 2 different opinions. But thankfully, because of all the information, all of the data, and the depth of the process, it was kind of a fairly clear decision. So we're at Barcelona in 25, and I think we've held 2 orientation events so far for our top clients. We're holding another one in May for everybody else, and all those clients now have seen the venue, they've had a tour, they've met with the city, and they're starting to kind of understand now and see in a more tangible term the opportunity for their business and the industry. So they're really behind it, really excited. We've got the new floor plan pretty much finished now, so we'll share a bit of that next week, and you'll see how it evolves. So Barcelona is going to be a great host. It's a great city. Spain's a great market. We've got a lot of strategy on to make sure that we don't leave anyone from the UK behind. I think if you're UK based, I would hope at the very least from a business perspective, you are motivated to come to ICE, because we'd like to believe that it's a must attend. But at the same time, if you're not and you just want to come and get away from the winter and get some Barcelona sunshine, then I think that's motivation as well. So we're hoping that's going to happen. I think the access to LATAM is going to be a bit stronger, and all for more European attendees, which is the bulk of our attendance, is going to be exciting as well. So lots in store really, and it's an exciting point that we're at. So we can't wait to push that button and start to make that migration.
If a small company like ours can send 5 people from Macau, the UK companies can send somebody to Barcelona, I think.
100%.
I've got the solution for you. If it had been a split decision, you just go down the Hippodrome and go black or red. That would have been out.
That was on the paper. Thankfully, I didn't have to do that. I'm not so lucky myself with things like that. So thankfully, the data spoke for us. But yeah, we could have done.
We could have done that. Stuart,
yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much for your time, and look, good luck next week. It's going to be a really big week. Everyone's excited about it, and we're on our way on the big jet plane, and we'll see you in London next week.
Oh yeah, definitely. I know you're traveling. You're putting in the air miles, Andrew. So I appreciate you coming over, and your team going to be over there. And we always enjoy working with you. Pleasure to see you next week.
Oh, thank you very much. We love it over there. ICE is really great, great show for us, and I think it's just fantastic. So we're very excited, and thanks, Stuart, and good luck. And we'll see you next week.
Take care.